All right. Hey, how you doing, sir?
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Doc. You doing okay?
All right.
Okay.
I
You just
I'm okay.
okay. That's good. Glad that you in, man. Look like you're sitting there in a nice cold. Oh yeah, but yeah, like I said, I'm doing okay, brother. Um, in this world of censorship, got to be a little bit more open. So let's talk about it.
No, it's bad. It's interesting. There's a direct historical path parallel. Burning of the Reichstag, Germany. It was used as a pretext for the Nazis to impose severe censorship, draconian measures. And you can see that right now with these idiots in D.C. Uh, I've never seen anything like it. It's sort of revenge of the nerds, and that kind is most vicious. What it is that you've got ordinary girls and boys, and then the homogenized ones. That's what you're looking at.
Okay. Um, Dana says that a host around the judge.
Yeah, the thing that gets me is they're so full of themselves, they don't realize that they are likely to incite something that's really vicious. A very, very bad backlash. I think they're going to ignite it.
Yes. So we were talking about this the other day, and you had an interesting parallel on this. So it actually brought me to bring you back on. And you said that censorship can be controlled if the ends justify the means. You going too far.
Well, yeah, that's what they're. See, this what happens is white folk riot about every 100 years, every 50 years. The last time 50 years was around, it was little peacenik hippies. 100 years ago, some of the good old boys they tore DC up. They burnt up what like a lot of black folk like to call Black Wall Street. They lynched a lot, thousands of black folk around the country. This time, though, I think all you got to do is have on something the NRA, wear a mega cat, and you hat. You're immune to that. But it looks like this whole thing in DC was faked. They did that, and I remember back in the '60s, we would be trying to get something done, and there'd be somebody showing up with a load of bottles or something, talking about let's go break some windows. Like, hey, I know you. You're a cop, yeah, I know who you are. Yeah, it's called uh, agents provocateur. They
Okay.
provoke. And that's what I was looking at. But
Well, let me.
anyway, the other thing, black folk are really the Negroes are being silly. They would, and then that asshole, bigot Biden, along with Humping Harris, they're up there talking about if it had been BLM, you could be sure there would have been a different outcome. Well, why? Because you looked at the BLM stuff. Uh, it's the same thing as a bunch of white folk. It ain't any black out there. I mean, it just looks to me like what did I tell you the other day? It's this ecology thing where they're running around protesting the animals, being mistreated. So a bunch of little vanilla cupcakes with some chocolate sprinkles on them out there on an extended spring break because they're bored and they are effectively protesting the mistreatment of the Afro bipeds that got brought over, turned loose, and now they are an invasive species. So then you got the Negroes. We done beat Trump. I said, man, this setting your ass up because your boy's talking about disarming you. And you want to be disarmed and you starting this up and the stuff ain't really hit, the real white folk ain't come out yet. You gotta be Okay. Hey, is that one over there? I ain't standing up for you. You're dumb
Well,
enough to vote for this asshole. Oh, bigot Biden and humping Harris. You on it. That's on you. You know.
let's talk about that because what you discussed with me was, and I pointed out to you, the black voter registration this year was the lowest it's been in a long time,
Yes, it has been. That's
and the
true.
black
They
vote
don't get it.
turnout was lower, with a higher percentage to vote for Trump, which is
Yeah, I
very
know. See, in other words, it's a setup. See, what's going on is they figured it was going to be about the ordinary turnout that you had for the last 100 years or so, not extremely high. And they decided to make it look like it was going to be a high one. And they stuffed the ballot boxes, so to speak, but this time with unsolicited mail in ballots. So they have 101, 103% turnout, which means there are
Nevada
more votes cast than
125%.
there are people to cast them. So it's what it is. And they're going around sanctimoniously preaching like the little idiots always do. See, but that kind, you know, they think everybody's so stupid. The other thing that I told you about this language about Trump inciting the riot. See, that's exactly the same thing they said about black folk 50 years ago. The idea that this bunch of elites has is that everybody but them is too phlegmatic and stupid to get angry and do anything without somebody coming in to agitate them. These Negroes have been peaceful, and it is obvious that there are outside agitators who are coming in to incite them to violence. Whether it is Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, or one of this bunch of riffraff militants, no one knows, but they are surely being incited. That's the way they used to talk, you know.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, like you were saying, stuff in the ballot box, but also, something that happened to you in
Oh
Memphis.
well, right here, Shelby
Vote
County,
flicker. Vote
Memphis,
flicker
Shelby
was the
County,
thing.
Tennessee. 2004, 2006, 2008, it had come up that the voting machines that they got back in 2000 were hacked. The Justice Department came in and concurred. That was under Bush head. That was under Bush Bunny. That was under Trump. And they put the money up 12 years ago to replace the voting machines. Well, they threatened to sue the idiots this time if they didn't replace them with some good machines and use the money to buy replacements. Well, they did. They got them delivered late January 2020, and they've been sitting in a warehouse. And for the state and local primary and general election, and for the federal primary and general election, they use the hacked machines and they still have the new ones in the warehouse. They're probably trying to figure out how to hack them before they put them out, but that's 4 elections they've used the hacked machines after they had the new ones. Now explain that.
Well,
See that?
well,
Well, I
look.
know what that is, but it's just corruption was rife and rampant.
Listen. It's something that you that I was looking at the other day, and this goes exactly what you said. And it also was an article out there that said Obama paid the Italian Prime Minister $400 million to hack the election via satellite. So that go to that thing when you
I
say,
don't know. I don't give a damn. There are all kinds of ways to hack an election.
yeah,
See,
yeah, I
we
understand.
don't need. Well, see, look, we don't need all that high tech bullshit. You know, all
Well,
you
yeah,
do is with all this stuff came in COVID-19. You got some little freaks who wanted to steal. They decided to. They did it the old time way. What happened is they got through all of these state legislatures this thing about unsolicited mail-in ballots where you didn't even have to ask for one. Trump was talking about it way back when. So this is going to be horrible. It was, and you didn't have to ask for one.
well, I
You
wasn't
didn't
just
have to
talking about
say,
him.
I'm sick, I'm worried about COVID-19, I want a mail-in ballot. they sent them to you irrespective of whether or not you made a request. And if you wanted to vote in person, you had to bring that unsolicited mail-in ballot with you if you wanted to vote in person. A lot of people didn't get them. And one guy we had out here talking about, he was an apartment manager and he had listed his addresses, seven different apartment buildings he was running, and he got 7 unsolicited mail-in ballots. And also you could do instant voter registration with those ballots, so he could have voted 7 times. So there are a lot of people that may not have even existed. A lot of people that did not go to the polls, a lot of people that were dead, a lot of people that were fictitious, and people just mailed in all of these ballots. And when they started coming in, you got more so-called votes cast than you had people to cast them. So I mean, you can do all that high-tech
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
but
no,
you
I was
don't
just
even
saying
need it. But
when
see,
it comes to the
what
money.
what I'm trying to say is, look, I don't want people to get into this idea of there are these hyper rich folk with a lot of money came around that stole the election by all kinds of esoteric, fantastical, super science fiction methods. Okay. There are other ways of stealing an election, and it's simply that if you are a low down crook and you've been used to being crooked your whole political career, or in your, and see, we have to talk about not just the people that are running for office, but the several thousand who are political cognoscente because that's their hobby, and they get involved in deep up to the chest with waiters on in the shit that goes on in politics every damn election cycle because they're one of the camp followers. They're one of the workers. All that group you see when you look at a convention and there's tens of thousands of people there. All of those, not just the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 on stage. See, those people have this idea that is so dangerous that self righteously, with clean conscience, they think they're doing you a favor by imposing this stuff on you, censoring you, cheating you, lying to you, being a hypocrite. Now, look at that clown down there in Georgia, okay? He took over King's Church, Ebenezer Baptist. Right across the street is this huge field that is filthy. And they've got all of these poor homeless people living in that filth. And this chicken eating fucker drives in there every damn day in his long car, and he ignores all of these people right across the street from his mega church. And he's the same one whose crying wife was out there crying about she couldn't take it anymore. She caught him in a bed with a man and he ran over her foot trying to get away. And nobody, and that got suppressed. But in the sense of righteousness, it's going on. Now we keep talking about white supremacy as black people, but there is another player in this game. It is using white supremacy as a smokescreen, as a camouflage, while it pulls something else off. And what that is it's the homogenized versus the normals. You see, that's what's going on. And they've been planning this shit for 50 years. I heard them. I've been telling people about this for years. Watch out, they're taking over entertainment. They have taken over mainstream media. They control social media venues. They are doing everything. This is unprecedented where they block the president out on all access. Why? They don't want him communicating with the people. This is unprecedented where they block everybody with not something that's dealing with pornography or obscenity, but stuff that's got to do with classic redress of grievance, classic politicking, classic social commentary. You know how Twitter and Facebook and Instagram block you if you say you don't like drag queens dancing in front of and reading to children? They block you if you say you just like normalcy. You can't even talk about being a straight human without them blocking you. You can't talk about we need, well, they encourage you to do reparations because the stupid Negroes think that falls into the lap of the Democrats who've told you no. And speaking of which, the fool that they elected has been a long term racist bigot. And I remember back 50 years ago, black people who were aware were telling him specifically, after he was so deep into resurrecting segregation again, and some others that were running with him, that one day black people would make him pay for his racism. And now look at these stupid Negroes. They sat there and supported him. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with the American people? Speak out. Don't let them put you in a corner. That's what we need to do. I mean, I don't care what somebody does in a damn bedroom. That's their own business. Get your freak on if it makes you happy. But the deal is there's some other stuff going on that comes outside the bedroom. Deals with children, deals with concepts of decency, concepts of honor, obligation, and responsibility and accountability. What is this? It used to be that what happens is somebody that had ambitions to being a dictator or a party that was trying to do something like that somewhere in the world got in slightly in power. Then they took over the press. And then when they took over the press, they controlled the people and the government. What happened is these folk have a social agenda that they've been spreading for a half century. They took over the press and they took over the government, and now they're trying to run the people, and not 5 to 10% of the whole country is them. And we've got to do something about that. And look what they're doing. This is absolutely ridiculous. What the hell? And then they want to talk about DC. They broke into the Capitol. You go back and look at all of those uprisings over the last year where all these little cupcake Nazis were out there protesting black lesbian mania. And you didn't see any black folk. You saw a bunch of little ratchet vanilla cupcakes with some chocolate sprinkles. It's white and white. And they're trying to put it on us so when somebody gets angry, they figure that, okay, we'll get rid of the Negro question. They've done their job and they've gotten us in the door where we finally wanted to get. Now let them take the blame.
Well, that was one thing I was about to tell you, but I wanted to say one thing that when I saw the article about the 400 million of Obama, that go back to what you said that hey, this man got a lot of money.
Yeah, and they need to look at that Biden laptop thing again. Of course, that's suppressed. And then the doggone thing that you have to deal with, well, not you, but we have to deal with is this. Part of the supreme law of the land is the Constitution itself. Laws promulgated to effectuate the Constitution. And number 3 listed in the Constitution itself is such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate. Article 2, Section 4 says the vice president and president can be removed from office upon impeachment and conviction for bribery, treason, or high crimes and misdemeanors. And what do you have? You've got the so-called president-elect in a multiple count indictment listed by name with a treaty party with the United States where the treaty says we are to assist in extradition, prosecution, and apprehension of suspects wanted by either government. So they've indicted the so-called president-elect and charged him with subornation, that's trying to solicit, perjury, bribery, extortion, and most interestingly, subornation of treason. And they've listed him, not just his son, but the president-elect. Now, what the hell are we going to do with that? And they're running around talking about Trump incited all these folk to riot, so they want to indict him. See, that's so insulting to the mainstream population of you dumb fucks. You're too stupid to go get angry. No matter what the hell goes on, you have to have somebody to incite you. It didn't take Trump to incite these folk. Trump didn't rile these folk up. All he did is he let them say to themselves, to hell with it. This is enough. And see, we're still stuck on white supremacy, which does exist, but we're sitting here getting taken by the real supremacists, the original white supremacists, the ones that formed the KKK, the Night Riders, and all of the rest of that crap, the ones that started the goddamn Civil War, they keep you enslaved. And we supported that bunch, thinking they are the ones that's going to save us. And like Malcolm X said years ago, he's 56 years ago, longer than that, 57 years ago, he said, look at this. 2/3 of the U.S. Senate, 2/3 of the House of Representatives are Democratic, and they're trying to block you getting your civil rights. What in the devil is wrong with you for supporting this group of old line racists who started the Civil War, kept you enslaved, tried to re-enslave you, have tried to keep you from becoming good citizens, and you keep supporting them?
Okay.
That is the height
I
of
got,
insanity.
I got a question for you in the chat right here. And Donald Washington, actually, he already answered this question, but I'm gonna let him answer. So, Judge, would you say black folks had directly, indirectly responsible for the election or the so-called election of Joe Biden? Well, Donald Washington, actually, the judge already said
No,
that
we're not.
we're
What
not
you
responsible.
just pointed out is the truth. Our voter registration was down. Our turnout was not that great, but the press wanted a scapegoat. They did that here in Memphis when these corrupt, hacked election machines were fixing elections. They kept talking about the overwhelming black majority in this town seems to have been persuaded by so and so. Overwhelmingly, the black voter in Memphis seems to have rejected the claims of black candidates. No, they didn't. That's what they lied and put out. I saw the numbers. I have worked with Black Box Inc. and some other entities over the years, or at least read a lot of their research and helped some people out who've successfully brought these things through court. And they are cheating. The evidence is there and clear, and everybody just ignores it and tries to come up with black people are supporting so and so instead of as expected to support such and such. And you see, that's what they're done. And all the black, we turned out Trump. We got rid of Trump. Yeah, but what did you get? And you see, you really didn't. And if you wanted to listen to it, Valerie and I play every week some of that tape that Massa Biden is on when he talking to his nigga said, bitch, shut the hell up. I didn't give you permission to speak. He said, we didn't need you. And what did he say? We can't bring this out about defunding police because we need that chicken eater down in Georgia and that other somebody down there to turn that woman out so we can take control of the Senate and put our agenda in. And what did he say? Quote, out there in this election, we got our asses kicked everywhere. Does that sound like somebody that won? No.
No.
It sounds like what he said a few weeks before that. He said, we just pulled off the largest voter fraud in history.
That was on October 24th. I sat right there and listened to him. I heard him when he said it. We have created
October 24th, we just pulled off the greatest voter fraud in history.
And you know what else
and
he
that's
said?
What he said just later. We got our asses kicked everywhere out there.
That's right. And you know something else he said, Judge? But I knew it because I had read about it. But he also admitted they used the same system to get Obama reelected in 2012. He said,
well, actually, Mitt Romney, we called him Mitt Romney. He was so bad, Obama could have probably beat him on his own. But they always like to ensure because you know what they took to heart? They are doggone liars, cheats, and they're thieves, and they stole that black theme by any means necessary, which was borrowed from Chairman Mao.
Well, I'm gonna say something else because if you go back and you can find it if these thugs ain't took it off the internet. Actually, Obama's black voter turnout was 33% less his second election. So the turnout was 33% less. They didn't come to
Well,
vote every drove second time.
why campaign honestly except do appearances when you can cheat and steal it?
Well, and I was gonna say one other thing, Judge, because now the thing with that, so Donald Washington, I just want to say to you, he basically telling you that it ain't smart to go out there and parade like you did something because you ain't do nothing. You make yourself a scapegoat for the end justify the means.
That's kind of exactly what it is. See, all of what you're seeing right now, if you get your ass away from looking at Housewives, Pose, and Empire, and all that garbage and reality TV, you could see it because it's done, it's been done before. You know who we are playing now? About to?
The
What did
scapegoat.
Adolf do with the Jews?
Oh, he exterminated them.
No. What did he do with the Jews? He made them a scapegoat.
Oh, yes,
What
right.
did
Yeah,
he do with
propaganda.
the communists? He made them a scapegoat.
Yep.
See, so this time the Nazis are the gays and their associates. The ordinary people are the norms and breeders, as they call us. And black folk are about to be made the Jews to take the blame for this thing. In other
Okay,
words,
now
they
watch
got
this.
out there and they caused you people to lose it.
Check this out. There's a book called The Communist Manifesto, and it kind of talks about everything
Oh
we talk
yeah,
about.
well, Marx and Engels, yeah, I've read that back and forth. We studied it in political science years ago. If you get into it, you'll find communism is supposed to be a cure for the evils of capitalism, but capitalism, to an extent, self-cured. So we do have minimum wage. We've got workman's compensation. We've got laws about the workplace and such on and such like, and even the people that were pushing it, Russia, they predicted back in 1919 that when there were no significant numbers of Russians with a living memory of their enslavement under the czars, then Russia could become a democracy. Lenin called it glasnost and perestroika. And when Gorbachev in 1990 started talking about glasnost and perestroika and the wall came down and communism broke up, fools were trying to say Ronnie Reagan, who did not a damn thing except pose as a figurehead, was responsible. Truth of the matter was, it was as per their own plan. So, we do get stuck on stupid as a people because we lack intellect. We like to get off into trends. This country is formed with a bunch of peasant farmers going out on a frontier, not reading a damn thing, thinking they're the equal of every and anybody else. And when you got a PhD with education, learning, discernment, a habit of critical and analytical thinking, the peasant frontier farmer said, "Oh, no way, he's no better than me." So he rejects or rejected those things that made the difference. That is the learning, education, wisdom, discerning, and intelligence. So now we still have that stuck on stupid mentality. We get dependent on technology, innovation, and critical thinking. We get somewhere with it and then we block it and then we slide downhill slowly. And it sometimes gets to be a very steep descent from time to time. And there's a precipice looming ahead when we need somebody with the intellect to come in and steer people around. Now, I told everybody back in 2016, I said Trump is not the lesser of two evils by a long shot. He, though, in comparison to that sleaze Hillary Clinton, who is a dishonest somebody with a temper problem, anger management problem, is somebody that will heighten the contradiction so you will see what's actually there. We got to see what's actually there. However, there were those forces waiting in the wing, ready to pounce, the homogenized bunch who don't like manhood, don't like womanhood, want to exploit children sexually, want to destroy duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, accountability, etc., impose on everybody a participation ribbon society where nobody is challenged because it might upset some little punk's sensibilities and self-esteem. Where I heard something last night on this thing. Oh man, it was disgusting. Somebody was listening to it with me. One of these chat rooms they have on what is it, Clubhouse, and it was calling about men bullying men, and some fools going, the bullies just need love, and if you want to stop bullies, you don't punch him, you just show him love, and he'll respect you. Like, God damn.
Wow. Tough luck, man.
I put my hand up, they wouldn't recognize me. So I just got through conducting a workshop with Keiko London, a lawyer down in Miami, on is college obsolete these days? And that got interesting. It went for a while. That's why I couldn't go on last night. I'd committed to do that. But it is a thing that is very interesting, this Clubhouse. But I notice where it's going. They're trying to come in and take that over too. And as a matter of fact, I noticed that on their logo, they added a rainbow. I
Wow.
said, wow. But you see, Parler, though, Parler was the all time most popular free app on Google, Apple, and Amazon. So what did they do? When Parler, which allows 1,000 strokes instead of just 280 like Twitter, and has no restraints other than just don't break the law, started nipping at the heels of Instagram so quickly that they had to block it because Trump and some conservatives went over there. But it isn't all just about conservatives, it's just free exchange. And it has gotten beyond this thing where Twitter had 140 strokes as their limit because of technological limitations when they started. They doubled it to 280. But everything has not, you can't really discuss on Twitter. All you can do is make emphatic statements with no nuance unless you really try. And that's bad because it incurs uh, a replication of this expectation that the most profound subjects are supposed to be reduced to a 5-10 second soundbite. And that's about what you get if you try to read off a tweet. You can do it in 10 seconds, 15 seconds with the number of strokes they give. But you see, they knock Parler down, and you notice that Amazon and AT&T and everybody were blocked Parler 3 a.m. Monday morning. And it's interesting because Parler may have set them up for one hell of an antitrust action. They're looking for alternatives. They're promising to be back on in a week. And I always wondered where some of these corporate entities got some of the bozos that give them legal advice, because they made some collective statements that, man, that's just antitrust stuff. That's
So
restraint of trade. So they might get hit with some massive damages. And one thing, did you notice the good part? Um, Twitter's uh, stock value dropped $8 billion in 24 hours after they banned
Facebook
Trump.
has dropped 34 billion.
34 billion now. I hope the son of a bitches go broke. And
And YouTube banned Trump, even though I'm kind of amazed at that because I didn't know he had a YouTube page, but they banned his content too.
they
So
banned that too. So I mean, they didn't ban Strom Thurmond, that's Biden's buddy. They didn't ban John Stennis. He's a U.S. senator. They named a nuclear aircraft carrier after him. They didn't ban that racist George Wallace. They didn't ban that racist James O. Eastland. They gave a state funeral that Biden was the keynote speaker at for Byrd, who had been Grand Wizard of the Klan, Grand Dragon or Wizard, one or the other. Uh, See, it
Obama was
doesn't
there
fit.
too.
Doesn't fit.
Okay, now remember what you said though, Judge. You said that when you're trying to get a monopoly like this, you can be broken up from private enterprise.
Bell Telephone. Actually, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You're too young because it was broken up before you were born, but ever since I can remember until I was in my 20s, 30s, hit 40, there was only one telephone company in America. It was Bell Telephone. They had Pacific Bell, South Central Bell, South Bell, Southern Bell, Eastern Bell, and you could walk up to any damn phone booth in any place in the country, put your dime, then a quarter in, and you could get anywhere it worked efficiently. But they busted it up. ATT is the residuum of that. And then you couldn't trust anybody's pay phones. You'd go up to a pay phone and you'd have to put up a credit card at a time when nobody had credit cards, or you'd have to put in uh, $2 worth of quarters and trust them to give you a refund when you didn't use it up. It just went to hell. But they broke up Bell Telephone, who had an absolute monopoly. And see, let me explain how that works. Okay, let's suppose and we live on Main Street. Well, not live on. You, me, and two other people live on Main Street, have businesses on Main Street. All right. You run a fish fry place, I want a barbecue place, somebody runs a hamburger place, and another somebody has a Chinese takeout, all right? Across the street, there's this guy that's got these great burgers, and he's just getting all our customers. So me, you, and the other two people in our group, we decided we're going to drive him out of business. Now, right there, we just violated antitrust. If we did nothing else, it's the decision that you're going to take where collectively you're going to overwhelm somebody business wise. Even if you don't fix prices, if you deliberately drive the prices down to drive this guy out of business, you violated antitrust. Now, what did Apple, Amazon, AT&T, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube do? For the specific purpose of getting rid of Parler, to get rid of a specific set of type of speech from, in this case, the President of the United States. They went and they completely violated antitrust. They are so stupid, they don't even realize that the language they used is specific. I mean, it's like, um, okay, Batson, you can't exclude a minority from a group just because he's a minority. And then I remember a trial where I had it happen and I got him busted on an appeal before that state's Supreme Court. They said this black person is a member of the NAACP, therefore the state can't get a fair trial. Well, what the Supreme Court of that state observed was, yes, the state articulated that this person was a member of the NAACP as a reason, but apparently they were unawares that this is one of the specific indications of bias because of the membership in an organization that advocates for fairness for a certain people, specifically in this case NAACP. So they thought they had a reason, but they were so ignorant they didn't realize they were actually falling into a trap. So that's what I'm looking at to an extent right here. It sounds technical, but it is a technical matter. And the idea is you don't want a monopoly. So what we have been seeing is a development of a monopoly in news outlets, if not in actual monetary or fiscal control in terms of ideation and agenda. So to keep Trump down, to keep him from being able to have a forum, you block millions of others of Americans so they don't have the forum. And then there's this case from 3 years ago where they wanted to attack Trump because he just blocked these people that were bad mouthing him. It's a federal decision, court decision. It says because these citizens are exercising their First Amendment right on what is, in effect, a public forum, the president cannot block them. He can mute them, but they have to be allowed to engage in protected First Amendment discussion. So that is the same damn thing. In order to block Trump himself, you get Parler knocked out by action of Amazon, AT&T, Apple, Google, etc. You get YouTube knocked out because they want to deal with blocking a certain one individual, but yet the rest of us are deprived of the ability to use Parler for as a public forum. That is a that is just conspiracy right there. That's legal. It's wrong. It's unlawful, and it's also civilly wrong, and it is restraint of trade. It is antitrust. It's attempting to establish a monopoly. And if anybody at Parler had thought this out, it was brilliant because they won the lawsuit.
That's right.
And they might not have any operating costs because all of these other entities are going to be paying out so much in damages. $34 billion in loss to Twitter is going to be small potatoes. And then remember, thank goodness Trump got to make all of these appointments to federal court, appellate courts.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good, and that's good. Now, I will say one thing here, that we got to look at, and because I wanted to go back to something, and I sent you uh, I think I sent
That's
you.
that last thing you sent me
No,
about
no, no, no,
what's
not
going on
her.
in DC.
We'll get to her. But I'm talking about that guy who was at the Capitol, and he's a BLM activist from Utah, and
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. That
yeah,
last
and
thing where they're talking about it
he
was
was
a
on
setup.
Andrew Cooper's show. So
Well,
when
see,
I saw
look,
that,
that's just like I was saying. Let's break some windows, man. Aren't you a cop? You know, aren't you Antifa, fool?
yeah,
That's what they were saying is the reason that that woman got killed is because of what Antifa in disguise did. Now, the fools want to say, oh, that's just made up. They didn't do that. Well, that's part of their style. They used to do it back in the 60s, or at least they learned how to do it in the 60s, and they passed it on.
well, you got an interesting thing here where you got the media covering up for the actions of BLM and Antifa, but they're blaming it on somebody else when actually they're like rock. So that also means you got to be careful with them because they'll get you out there marching with them and get you stuck in the
Oh,
foxhole.
yeah. And that's what did you see all this stuff over the last year? Have we forgotten when they burnt all these police stations? Oh, protesting a black man being killed and then burning and breaking the windows out and looting black businesses to protest. And
Yeah.
guess what? There were no black faces out there. So, what is this? Is if it's sauce for the goose, it's sauce for the gander. If it's okay to bust Trump for it, why wasn't it okay to bust all these other Antifa, black lesbian mania folk?
Well, yeah,
See, we
and
don't get it. We don't think. I told you about this the other day uh, at a restaurant. I was sitting there and looked up, and there were several people distance, but we all knew each other. We got into this discussion about these issues. And one guy had come in for lunch with a coworker. Another brother was sitting there. You know what this fool interrupted and said, man, why don't we talk about something relevant like the game, man? Why are we worried about this mess?
You're right. You told me.
Hey, you dumb jackass, what's the matter with you? That's why you don't know shit. You ain't got shit, won't get shit. Your children won't either. You know what? See, I'm going to tell this. This actually happened. It's not on politics, but it's just on Negro ignorance. There's this good brother. He's cool, named Eddie Walsh. Good brother. Me and the guy we call Coop. So we were out there at a function, and he brought his own lunch because he knocked off from work. So we were talking about stuff, and he started talking about what you can and can't eat diet. So he was saying, you know, you can't eat fish and drink milk. That's poison. You'll die. Eddie pointed out, said, man, you drinking a carton of milk and eating a tuna fish sandwich, fool. You ain't died. He said, well, see, tuna fish ain't real fish. It's like chicken live in the water. I said, man, you mean like chicken in the sea, fool? He said, yeah. See, that ain't real fish. I said, damn, man. Eddie said, Coop, you about one of the most ignorant folk I've ever run into. See, that's Negro ignorance.
Well, I'm gonna say
We got to
one
go
thing.
black so we don't talk that. I don't like. I never did like this African American nonsense. That sounded too hoity-toity to me. Black. That was always cool.
So
See,
I got a few more questions to ask you, Judge. So I know because I know that kicked you off Power too. And I know you ain't went over to Power because you said you want to be bullied by a bunch of sissies or
I
something like
wasn't being bullied as fuck you. I want to say what I got to say. I was trying to set it up so I could tell one of them finally, fuck you, asshole. You know,
that.
what I've been doing, if you notice, I say if I was an impolite person, I'd say, fuck yourself, but you'd probably like that. But since I'm polite, I won't tell you that. You
Well,
know,
I was discussing with a lady earlier today. I said, what's the weird part? Like the coach for the Patriots said that he wasn't going to accept the Medal of Freedom. And I said, now, Bill Belichick don't even how to talk to the media, but you got a social Marxist movement that the people who running all these companies are into that type of stuff. So it's kind of like, they kind of make you bend down to the knee almost.
that's what they're doing. See, it's coercion. See, remember, censorship used to be about porn and obscenity. Now it is social and political thought. That's where the country loses it. And the problem is, it's not just a few, it's almost all. Not all, but, there are significant exceptions. But see, this right now, StreamYard, you're going to put it out on YouTube. What if YouTube goes a little bit further now? If they get away with what they did with Trump, they can do it to you or me and say, we're not going to carry the Judge Joe Brown and Valerie Denise show. We're not going to carry the Valerie Denise. We're not going to carry Dana Cumberlander. We're not going to carry this other person because we don't like what they say. You see where that goes? That's a slippery slope. Once you start down it, it's awful hard to stop your momentum until you get to the bottom and hit the rocks.
Well, that was another thing that I was saying. So I was talking to another friend of mine. I said, that really what they did on January 6th until now, I'm talking about as far as the election, as far as censorship, and as far as that false flag that we saw there at the Capitol, they look like they're making a strong run. Well,
It
actually,
looks
direct the
like they
Constitution.
took a page out of the Nazi playbook.
That's right. That's right.
Straight out of Joseph Goebbels, Heinrich Himmler, and Adolf himself.
Who Biden actually called the senators who objected the electoral college votes Joseph Goebbels. He actually flipped
Well,
that
I know,
back.
but you know what Joseph Goebbels said. Uh, Very viable policy practice is to blame your opponents for what you are doing.
That's right, and that's what they've been doing. So, but it all adds up in the thing.
Well, did you ever see the franchise Revenge of the Nerds?
You might have to look at it, Judge. Let me look at it.
This looks exactly like it. Throwing a little animal house. See, the nerds got dumped on, so they wanted their revenge. So they came up with all kinds of plots to get revenge. And when that movie was popular, a lot of us said, you know what? One of these days, these nerds are going to get their revenge, and folk are going to be asleep at the wheel.
Well,
And by the way, speaking of stuff, the Act of 1877, there was a presidential election then when they had horse and buggy, and the fastest thing was a railroad train. They thought 65 miles an hour was impossible because people wouldn't be able to breathe if something went 60 miles an hour, and then some train beat that. And they said, oh my God, we got to reassess things. When it was those days, they set up an election commission with a 15-member panel, five representatives, five senators, five Supreme Court justices, with the Chief Justice presiding. And what their mandate was is to assure the American public, since there were a lot of questions about the integrity of the election, to do an independent audit with recommendations coming back after a delay of 10 to 15 days to effectuate the audit on observations and recommendations on whether or not to accept the electors from certain states where the fraud had been rampant. The deal was, as if it turned out to be found fraud, then Congress, which has the ability to say so, would reject those proposed electors and just go with the ones that were qualified. They noted in the act that if there were insufficient electoral college votes to select any one candidate for president, then it would go to the 12th Amendment, which says in the event that you cannot get all of the electors, each state in the House of Representatives will cast one vote for the office of chief executive slash president. And that would mean that California would have the same one vote as Maine does. So if you look at the map, there are more red states than there are blue states. And the situation now is a lot worse than it was in 1877. And under this still good federal act, I would contend that a whole lot of congressmen broke the law, senators too, by not invoking that act, which has a mandate. In other words, when such and such exists, then this act comes into effect. So why did they break the law? By
well,
not imposing it. What they did is, see, brilliant. They had a burning of the Reichstag. The Nazis burnt the building, not the commies, and they scapegoated somebody. Antifa did that crap, the violent part in DC, and that gave them the excuse that I told you about when it was going down. They were going to use this as an excuse to impose severe censorship and to justify breaking the law, which, in my estimation, Congress has done because they did not evoke the 1877 Act, which was involving alleged fraud. It was not nearly as bad and not nearly as sustainable as now. The purpose was to ensure the absolute confidence of the American citizen in his institution. Now they got 40-some% of the people are very much deep into the column of firm belief that this was a fraudulent election. And then October 24, you got Bozo saying, we just pulled off the greatest election fraud in American history. And then you just have him off of that NAACP tape. We got our asses kicked everywhere during this election.
yeah.
Now,
And one other statistic in there that was very, then it came out that 25% of the people only picked a different candidate, but that means the rest of the country voted for president and vice president. So how did you saying you got your ass kicked? So obviously you admitting that you didn't win.
exactly. In Jamaica, man, since you got humping hottest from Jamaica, be them on damn lie. That damn fuckery. They say that. That be guilty knowledge, man.
But the worst part, they went back to They went back and did it in Georgia too,
Oh,
again.
well, yeah, again. But Georgia can't seem to get anything done for black folk, like Cobb County, which extends into Atlanta. They have some racists running some of the courts there who just railroad blacks over and over and over again. And they can't seem to pay enough attention to do anything about that. But they can sure get one chicken eating preacher who ignores all that filth and poverty right across the street from his big, historically significant church.
Look at Al
Who's
Sharpton.
got a beautiful little young wife who's running around talking about her foot got run over because she caught him in bed with, and he was trying to get away.
well, look. Well, look at
Well,
Al
it's
Sharpton on
Atlanta.
that.
I'm not surprised. So
Look at Al
it is what
Sharpton
it
on
is.
that interview with Biden where he didn't say that when Biden told him that the Mexicans be running this joint.
Yeah, he said, "Looky here, you people, you're not the biggest majority anymore. The Hispanics are, and in 40 years, white people are no longer going to be the majority. It's going to be these Hispanics. And if you want some, damn it, you better ride on these Hispanics." Codes. He said Mexicans, but I'll be polite.
Well, let me ask you a question. Wasn't that something you were saying?
I said that. He told him the truth. And he said, "Fools, you gotta you know what you are." He didn't say it, but it was an implication. You some damn fools. You provided us with the cover for pulling this fraud off. Everybody thinks y'all went out there and you did it for us. No, you were just the cover. We didn't need your ass. We had it already. You were just the front.
Yeah,
One more time
just
of
like
black folk
just
front
like the
off of white folk, like what's his name, Byron Allen was trying to do for
but look
CBS.
though, just like the front for BLM.
Fronting for lesbians, black lesbian mania is what BLM stands for. You got to have a acronym. Try Black Folk Matter, BFM. Black Families Matter. Black Fathers Matter. Uh, Black Feminism Matters. Black Firearms Matter. Black Finance Matters. You do that kind of thing. Black Fiduciary Matters. Black Fraternity Matters. You can use BFM, damn BLM. That's been totally corrupted. And that fat slob running around greasing ass down with gold grease is standing around naked looking like a hippo ready to get dressed and put in a Walt Disney animation fantasia or something. Remember when they had the hippos dancing in tutus? They bring that out every 20 years so the kids can see it.
Well, I would say this, Judge. Well, in this era of censorship, are you still on Twitter?
They've taken 8,000 followers away from me in 1 week. I was talking to Isaiah Washington. He had the same thing happen in other folk. They're just trying to knock it down, keep getting people liking. And then you know what you do? Those little 3 bars that are on there when on your site, touch them sometimes and see what the activity. 133,000 interactions with the thing, and they claim you got 7 folk that liked it. It's like, okay, fine.
Shadow ban, I got it. Okay. Well,
Shadow blocking and manipulation, see,
do
of the
you
pen.
do
People
you
like
still
look,
have your
followed
Twitter?
it. How many people like this? If a bunch of them liked it, then I'm gonna like it too. That's like those little airbrush China dolls, with the blue checks on Twitter. I had some blue jello and it quivered. 124K likes.
well, well,
Like,
look.
and Twitter has refused to give me a blue check. I got my red P for Parlor inside of an hour.
Mm, wow.
See, because they're not trying to censor what somebody says. See, America has never censored what somebody says unless it's during wartime or it's got to do with porn or obscenity. And now you can say any damn thing you want, no matter how obscene, anywhere. Say it to children, say it in school, say it on the airways. Nobody gives a damn. They get amateur porn queens and they make them spokesmen on prison reform. They make them celebrities, and there is no longer any shame. Instead of slut shaming, you do slut solution. I mean, salutation, which is when you get away from putting a check on indecency. You have a morality problem.
Well, just out of that alone, just I mean, I know they might have 8,000 followers. Maybe some people in the chat will be some new followers. So give out your Twitter anyway, even though it's private. They're knocking you off, but this I understand.
Well, I know, but you see, they censored you. I followed you. You know, you weren't saying anything offensive, just talking truth. And the language you use is the same kind of language that your detractors use against you, but you can't use it against them. And by the way, if you want to do something, read Orwell's Animal Farm. And if you,
I'm about to say that. I'm about to say that actually.
I'm talking to your audience. If you're too damn lazy to read it, Google it. The CIA did a pretty good animation of it to put out in the early 50s as a warning against communism. But it adheres pretty much in terms of the dialogue and concept to the book. But what happens is some farm animals stage a revolution at a farm and they throw the humans out. So they take control. They come up with a constitution. And one of the points is all animals are equal. Well, the pigs decide to go do a counter thing. They sneak, they hide, they give all these special privileges to each other. They censor, they get a pack of dogs working for them that take everybody else down. And then after a while, they change the animal constitution. And where they have it is where it used to say all animals are equal, it now says, but the pigs are more equal than others. So
Yep.
you but others can say it if they're homogenized.
Well, I know it's. Oh yeah, that's right. Donald Washington, Michigan governor, has been charged in the Flint water crisis. That's after 4 years. That did happen. Now I want to say, so it's at Judge Joe Brown TV, and you don't have a blue check. I know that you're losing followers, but maybe somebody will go in there and look it up. I don't know. Maybe people might be ready for the boycott Twitter.
I'm down. Well, last I checked today is at 40,700, but it's probably dropped down to 39 now. They're trying to do it. But I tell you what, I was shooting up pretty rapidly for the few days I did Parlor. And when Parlor comes back on, find me at Judge Joe Brown.
Okay, well, we find you on Judge Joe Brown on Parler, so and I'm on Parler too. So, but yeah, Judge, thanks for coming by to talk about this censorship stuff because you understand it very well, and you got antitrust.
You can find me on Parlor and on Facebook. I've got a picture of myself like this rather than I was what I was 20 some years ago. I also, if you want to get me, I don't do anything with Instagram, but I'm under J Blake on Instagram. I've got some shades on, and that's just so I can get on when somebody insists on putting what little mild stuff they can put on Instagram. I can see it. The same thing with Facebook. I've got somebody that I have on board now to help me manage that Facebook thing. But Facebook, you can't say anything on it. You can't say it on Instagram either. But thanks. And keep up the good work, young man.
Well, thank you, sir. I will say, Gavin says, hey, he said, "What's going on, Judge?" And to me, and he said, "Come on his show tomorrow." Y'all had a wonderful show on Monday. So,
Tell him I will Monday. Brother
no, no,
Rishon.
no, y'all had a wonderful show Monday. He's saying, "Come on the show tomorrow."
Oh, tomorrow. I'll be there. Okay. You guys are killing my social life. But anyway,
Hey, man. I mean, people like to talk to you, man. I'm sorry, man. I ain't trying to kill your social life, man. Go out and do your thing.
Judge Joe Brown, he needs to go die. He's all old fool, blah, 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 blah. No, punk ass motherfucker. I'm just relevant and I ain't forgot to fire. I'm trying to light you some fire, folk. So you keep it up. I'm still
Well,
kicking. Don't
Well,
like it.
with that being said, in closing, get a men a message and the women a message.
If you don't like it, come kick my ass if you can. So anyway, ladies, I'm out here to protect you. It's about protecting womanhood, and what I'm doing now is promoting manhood. So some of these spineless Negroes will act like men, provide for, protect you, and do some other things for you. And you got to stop trying to look at them in the way that a gold digger does and recognize a precious resource to you, ladies. It's men, just like you ladies are a precious resource to the women who
Well,
want what
and what
you
you
are
say, and what you say, Judge?
to
Um, n- n-
the men. See, women are the prize. You come out on the top of the heap, you get all the good women. But you see, there's some women want the good women. So it's a matter of, do you want a man to get you or do you want a woman to get you? To have.
well, I gotta say one thing, and you said it. What you talked about the restaurant? No more bread and circuses, huh?
Why don't y'all talk about something relevant instead of all this political BS?
Well,
What his homeboy said, you sorry, MF. So man, you always bitching about what's doing getting done wrong to you at work and in this town. These folk trying to talk about it, and you want to talk about some ball game.
well, look, Judge. This is what I'm gonna say to you. Um, I do just have a good night, man. Hopefully some people here will go follow you on Twitter. I know you're losing followers, but we'll see.
And I think they're gonna wind up getting wrecked. Remember, CNN. Well, AT&T is trying to sell CNN because they're losing money.
Yep, that's right.
Money too.
Well, well, this is what I'm gonna say. Well, we're gonna see what's going on, and Judge, I want you to have a good time. Power to the people, and thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Keep up the work. Ciao. I'm out.